Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to the quarterfinals of the 2019 Mattel World Scrabble Championship. We are joining it live and hot in the action. Nigel, being the #1 seed, is starting his match up against Ahmad Ali, the young 13-year-old from Pakistan who impressed everyone by winning the World Junior Championships just beforehand. We also have Craig Beavers on the line, who is contributing. So Nigel starting with Hub for 16 points. Keeping VNWE. Ahmad will be thanking his lucky stars. He has the floater for Tea House. But it is the final, well, the quarter-final of a World Championship, so well, it's quite high probability the pressure is on this young man. So will he see Tea House? Nigel, in the meantime, has drawn Dross, so this could be well, on move 1 we could have a turning point of a game. Wow. So Ahmad taking the probably the second choice here, but it's significantly behind the first choice.
Yeah, when you have your first trip into such a high pressure situation, especially at such a young age, it's it's difficult. And you get an opening rack like that, and you're sitting across from Nigel, and you're being live streamed. Like, you have to get into the right headspace and do it. So, I mean, no shame in that miss in that situation.
No, absolutely. Although if you can draw out Mestizo just to try and make up for it, that helps. Especially when your opponent's about to set you up for a fairly significant score with it. So Nigel choosing the best play there. 30 points. I expect to see Mestizo and Wolves. Got a 106-point bingo. The score is now oh, sorry, it's 46 to Nigel and 10 to Ahmad. And down goes Mestizo.
Taking a little bit of time to think about where exactly he wants to place DX. He has several high-scoring places to put it.
I think you've got the. I mean, his danger here is he doesn't want to put the Zs. I mean, he's giving away another 40-point counterplay just by playing it in Wolves.
Exactly.
Having said that, Nigel wouldn't have too much worth playing off it.
Yeah. The other option would be dropping the M in the triple lane for sacrificing about 10 points or so.
Yeah. But that would set up Nigel for Jin. Not that he knows this, and Zhao. Yeah, he's going to do that instead of giving away the easy 40-point counterplay.
As it turns out, the more conservative placement is going to end up burning him a little bit.
Crackle simulation puts the higher scoring Wolves and Mestizo slightly ahead. But that takes Ahmad, scores 97, takes him to 107.
Yeah, it's difficult to really measure how many points you should give up to not put the Z in that spot. It does, as the tiles lay, it does give Nigel the J play back, but then Ahmad gets first shot at that M. So it's probably not as dire as it seems. There's still the E and Warv. That's a big hot spot that stays more open because of the placement. So if you think about what the board is going to look like 2 or 3 turns down the road after this placement of Mestizo versus the other one, there's a lot of consideration there. It's still probably not worth giving up that many points for the other play, but
yeah, I mean, leaving the Z there probably just increases Nigel's average score by 5 to 10 points on the move. Yeah, Nigel choosing job there. I think good, keep the QIN together. Let's give you an opportunity to offload it. Again, picking Crackle's top choice. Oh, wow.
Yeah, he is going to cash in on that M in the triple lane immediately.
Picking well. It's interesting because during this tournament I came to believe that if you made a mistake your tiles went really, really, really bad immediately, but apparently that doesn't always happen to players. Nigel up to 90 now. Oh, hi Craig, I think Craig's joined us. Can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Hi, yeah, we can. Good morning.
Good stuff. Morning.
Wow, okay, Syed, yeah, banging down another bonus. 83, only play worth playing, takes him up to 190, so Nigel staring down a 100-point deficit. Yeah, so Nigel is on 90, Ahmad is on 190.
Ooh.
Wow.
First STT blank.
Ahmad is having missed a bonus on his opening rack. He seems to be making up for it with a drawing now. Wow. Yeah. Nigel doing the sensible thing, offloading the queue, keeping reasonable tiles. And Ahmad's going to play another bonus. The question is which one. I mean, I'd be thinking now about playing something to make maybe hubs and start boxing off the board. Restrict the plays down the side of remained. As a general principle, if I'm going to leave floaters, I want to start restricting as many of them as possible so that my opponent can't have the floaters at all points in their 8-letter word. So in this case, it's going to start frustrating the S of Mestizo, the T, and all the floaters of whatever he plays making hubs are going to be frustrated by, well, the S and the T.
Yeah, that's one option. You could go above job as well. They would limit space a little bit, but yeah, it doesn't restrict the floats in Mestizo, but it does give floaters away, of course, if you place on the hubs.
And we'll learn a bit about his playing style from this move, because this is one of those racks where he's obviously got a whole bunch of different options that accomplish different things, and it's possible to really get lost in the weeds a little bit here in trying to figure out which of the many different and good options he should go with. This is one of the, he could potentially run off 7 or 8 minutes trying to think through this, especially with the pressure of being on the annotated board with the best player in the world across from him.
I can only imagine how excited I would be if I've just bonused twice in a row against the world champion in the quarterfinals, and I've picked this out. Usually at this point you're expecting to get 3 U's and 5 V's, and then overdraw and one of your V's gets put back. I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah, Nettles is a reasonable play. The nice thing about Nettles as well is it encourages the opponent to play down the left-hand side of it to take the triple, but in doing that they'll start killing off their own floaters. And if they don't, then you can take that next move. Nettle's definitely up there as one of the top players.
Yeah,
Scores
it's
are
taken
now-
away some of the easier 7 lines.
Yeah. The score's now Nigel 114 and Ahmad 261. It's a 147 point lead to Ahmad at the moment.
That positioning of Nettles also takes out the S in mestizo, which is, you know, more words start with S than any other letter.
Yeah.
Even though we mostly think of it as ending words.
Yeah. And of course, simple S plays onto hub. I mean, well, at least ending in S.
Yeah. And there's no other place on the board to play a bonus ending in S, hooking that S.
Yep. I think Nigel will be considering things like yo now, and I mean, quite simple. BY and yo. He's got the N hook, keeping grain. Probably needs to be thinking about setting up something big. Okay, now he's played another yo. Quite reasonable.
And Ahmad will have to think his way through his first bad rack of the game.
So Nigel now up to 136, having picked out much better now.
That works.
Yeah, if ever a game with a 140 point difference was not over, this is not over.
Yeah, especially since, well, I wonder who's going to play margins. Will Nigel play margins across the top of job, and then it'll be an E race.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ahmad's making the sensible move. You balances his rack nicely, takes out the floating E, frustrates the floating L, takes out the floating S. Takes him up to 285. But games like this are decided on tight margins. And does Ahmad... Oh, he doesn't have an E, so if Nigel does go for the aggressive, he's going to be the favourite to hit that triple. How aggressive is Nigel feeling? He's 149 points behind. He's still going to be a big bingo behind, even after this one.
Margins will give back a big K play on the A12 square.
Yeah. Well, Crackle is courageously going for 2H margins. It's giving Nigel a less than 10% chance of a win at the moment, which, if we weight that towards Nigel, is around a 70% chance of winning. Other options like Nigel's looking at now, smearing. I think Germain's is better because it leaves a play across the top of job. That's an interesting one.
Does smearing take an S?
That's a very good question. It depends. If I played it, it doesn't, and if I avoided it, it probably does. No, okay. So yeah, Crackle, as I say, favouring margins, but smearing, Germain's does come out second. But then Nigel's drawn.
So Nigel's up to 210. $75 behind. Ahmad goes to 315 with Avidin.
Looks like that player has blocked one of Nigel's bonus, or Nigel's only bonus, perhaps.
Yeah. Hold on, I just need to catch up on things. There we go. There we go, so 315 to 210, yeah. Is it wipe off they had, I think?
Ooh.
He had Pifero making hack.
Bevor, yeah. Wipe off. Yeah, but now nothing playable. Nigel maximising his score to create an opening. Good play.
Ahmad has drawn a bingo himself, but having lined up PWP, looks like he might not see it.
Yeah, Porkiest is... Ah, dear. Yeah, that was a bit quick. The game could be over now, but as it is...
It was a clunky set of consonants. It was sort of the same problem he had in his first rack with all those vowels and a playable tea house. He just maybe just took a quick glance and said, "This is an ugly rack. Let's dump off the junk."
Yeah. And I think actually, I don't know if there's something that comes with, actually picking out, picking like that, you're generally going to get away with it fine. And I think maybe it comes with age or experience, is just sort of settling down and taking time to double check. I know we've had a couple of great young players come through the UK in the past who really have risen quite high, but probably didn't quite hit the astronomical heights because they just played so quickly. I don't know how much of it is nerves, but you'd certainly expect him to know Porkiest, given how well he's done to get into this final.
Yeah, it kind of comes with experience. Once you've missed enough bonuses with weird, clunky racks, you have to stop and consciously remind yourself to look for one in every single rack.
Yeah.
Even if it's 5 vowels and looks terrible, or it has PWK, like there could be something there. Take a moment to look.
Scores now: Ahmad 344, Nigel 260. Nigel opening up a 9-timer, but Ahmad can take the 9-timer out simply by playing Keratins.
Yeah, the points play would be just coming down with Narciast from that end, but that does leave the 9-timer lane open.
When you've got an 84-point lead, I think you take out the 9-timer.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has to. If he doesn't, he's in big trouble.
Yep. That's the question. What is he going to do? He's looking at Narciast.
Oh my.
He's looking at Narciast.
Big trouble is understating it. Ooh.
Oh, hello. What? Wow.
Huh.
That's interesting. Why would he not play Keratins?
Probably very paranoid about any bonus to the F,
Well,
which
And
isn't necessary, but...
And Nigel had effacing, for those of you who haven't perhaps looked at his rack and taken the big clue that he gave us.
but he does still have, he's got significantly worse bonuses now, obviously.
Mhm.
Facing. Fencing's similar. Yeah. And of course Ahmad has another bonus. So Nigel takes the maximum points with end facing.
Puts Nigel at 327 to 374 for Ahmad.
Ahmad does have a double-double of wasted right now. Again, that would be game over. Nigel has picked a bonus, which I don't think plays.
Yeah, even without the double-double, he should be safe if he hits double like Durates.
Yeah, that's what he's looking at now. I've already played Dearest just to put the S and the T next to one another to frustrate parallel plays across the top, but that's a minor consideration really at this stage. And the pool isn't looking brilliant either from Ahmad's point of view. 4 A's, 3 O's, 2 I's. 14 in the bag.
$14 in the bag is a big point, because once there's fewer than 14, your opponent can't bonus twice.
Yep.
So he's gonna play 7, we assume, and leave 7.
As long as he doesn't play Starade. Yeah, I think Dearest has to be the play. There we go. That takes him up to 458. So he's 131 clear of Nigel.
It's about this point in a game against Nigel that you start to imagine you might actually win.
Potentially.
Yeah. Until Nigel gets the 9 timer through end facing. And Ahmad has the X now as well.
Yeah, it's the sort of situation where even though the rack isn't good, you're glad to see the X because you don't want Nigel to have it to mess around with.
Yeah. So yeah, relatively a straightforward game. I guess Nigel hasn't really put a foot wrong. He has been a bit bagged in this one. I think Ahmad will need to just take stock from this one and come back and well, either do the same again or concentrate a little more.
The games in the other quarterfinals got started a bit later than this one. Currently, Peter Armstrong is ahead of Harshan, 168 to 124. Jason Keller looks like he's been drawing well against Paul. He's ahead 303 to 172. And apparently David Eldar and Dave Wiegand are hiding their score sheets from our roving reporter Sumble.
We need drones.
We've got them playing Scrabble. So Nigel currently on 356. So from Ahmad's point of view, not really any threats at all.
No, just AR in the bag, so
Yeah.
it's very low scoring stuff.
Nigel might have dialer, but yeah, it's doesn't really matter now.
There's no double nines through the W and the A in the pool.
It would have to hook smearing as well, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I wonder what's going through his mind now. Is he just thinking, how do I kill that dearest opening, make 100% sure? It's quite nice to have this kind of mental exercise, knowing that you've already won the game.
Mm-hmm.
There doesn't seem to be a great way to kill it and play the X.
I wonder if you should just play, do something Nigel-esque and just play Go from smearing. Leave one in the bag, set up the XU. Back in your face, goat.
If you play Go, it has to be accompanied by the stare. Just kind of lean back and smile slightly.
As we know, Crackle isn't great in these situations, but it's telling me that Agio from M1 for 18 has a 99.98% chance of winning. So I wonder what the 0.02 chance is.
I think that would be the clock malfunction where Nigel's immediately jumps to 9:59 of overtime.
We're looking at Gox down from the AG, from the A of Koala, do we think, just to kill the opening? Yeah.
Seems reasonable.
Although an E goes in there, so it doesn't really kill it. I don't know if there's any bonuses starting with EA in the pool. Or
No. No, there's nothing that would play. And I can see. You're just looking trilled. 473 for Ahmad.
Yeah, I found earlier in the game the choice of smearing quite interesting, given it sacrificed quite a few points. Wondered what everybody else thought.
Yeah, and I mean, playing Germains would have set up a double-double with the S, giving him an opportunity to get back into it, but Nigel choosing Tell. So, Ahmad's missing a tile, unless I've done something wrong.
Yeah, he should have 6.
Yeah, and he's only got 5.
Is this the .02%
This could
chance
be the
of losing?
.02.
yeah, if there's a tile left in the bag, then it's also difficult because on this particular board you can't see the number of tiles on your opponent's rack.
Yeah.
So Nigel wouldn't be able to remind him to pull the last tile from the bag because he wouldn't realize until somebody tried to play out.
Does that then mean it's our responsibility?
Or, yeah, unfortunately Ahmad won't get to play out, but
But I've had games like that where I forget to pull the last tile and then I make what I think is an outplay for my opponent only to inform me that no, you still have a tile, it's in the bag. The game's not over.
And scores now Ahmad 492 and Nigel 379. Ahmad did miss his highest scoring play of a riot down the side of Gox. It's all academic now. So Nigel's on 379, about to go out. Yeah, goes out with dirt by the look of it. Taking him to 402, and neither of them are questioning where the A is.
Yeah, if they fill out the paperwork and the tile's still in the bag, then the final score stands as they agree. It's not. This isn't that uncommon an irregularity.
But you would have thought they both know their tracking is out. I mean, okay, the game is lost, but as a matter of course, I always make sure my tracking is done.
Mm-hmm.
You follow through the same process each time.
Did Nigel just throw his score sheet against the wall in frustration after the third bingo?
Just put a giant black X across the whole thing.
His brain has just kicked into attack plan Omega, I believe. He's been coasting on defense plan Phi until now, but I can see the fangs now beginning to just flip out on those bottom lip. Will those 2 points of spread that Nigel would have got from that A make a difference? So an interesting game. Ahmad certainly having the best of the tiles.
All 99 of them.
All 99 of them. So I think he's going to have to concentrate a little bit harder if he's going to go all the way in this tournament, because the tiles aren't always going to help him coast.
But still, it's impressive for him to sit up there against the against the GOAT.
You have to get that.
At his age, and it's first time on this kind of stage. I have to give him credit.
There we go. Oh look! Oh look! There's one in the bag. Oh, director. Director, we're gonna have to replay.
Yeah.
Let's
start over.
Yeah, Nigel, go Nigel, go on. Come on, Nigel. Oh, we're gonna have to replay. Oh dear.
When will the second game start?
Are we going to stick with this matchup, or are we going to rotate someone else in?
We're going to bring on, I think, David Eldar and Dave Wiegand for the next.
Dave Wiegand being the recovery story that I wish I had been in this tournament. From 13-13, he dragged himself up yesterday and got into the quarters. It's a great effort.
Yeah, Dave Wiegand is widely regarded as one of the best players to have never won a world championship.
I've seen some great plays from him during this tournament, including retrainee through 2 disconnected floaters against Vince Boyle. Oh, and Cabazone also against Vince Boyle in a separate game. There we have a nice view of the playing room. You have Ruth McInerney with her usual impassive glare. You have Nigel wandering in the distance, which is interesting because he's also still sitting at the board.
It's amazing.
Reinforcing the rumour that he does in fact have a stunt double.
Some people can throw their voice, he can throw his entire body. It's amazing. Is there anything he can't do?
I think he and his stunt double once won 2 tournaments at the same time on opposite sides of the world.
In different languages.
Yep, there on the right, David Eldar is pondering.
Does he look defeated or victorious?
Well, I should add that following his great choice of words in post-match analysis when we were in Nottingham, we're going to ask him just for written submissions this time, that will be edited 15 minutes in advance.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you ask him what he thinks, he'll tell you. In a very literal sense. So yeah, over there on the left part of the screen, you see the final fling here. Another 7-game tournament starting today.
The next game will start at 11 o'clock. Will be David Eldar versus Dave Wiegand, as you can see on the screen.
So many Daves in this tournament.
Yeah.
Very nearly had a third Dave in the knockout rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we need to spare a thought. I mean, Dave Koenig really doing very well in the opening days. Never looked like he was going to drop out of contention, and then losing 6 out of 7. Including the final heartbreaker against Peter Armstrong, where both players pretty missed opportunities.
Yeah, he missed out on the knockout round by a couple hundred spread points behind Ahmad.
Yeah. I think we should mention the quality this venue has provided to us. It's been really good, actually. It's a nice open airy environment, bright space, great staff around providing us with all sorts of teas, coffees and everything else. Nice location. Yeah, it's a shame it's a little bit diluvian outside with the weather, but nobody would notice because the sun always shines in a Scrabble tournament.
It's great weather for Scrabble.
It's great weather for Scrabble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and from the canteen across the way, there's a nice view of the ocean. It's a really nice venue. We're happy to be back. There's Peter Armstrong, the orange shirt, playing Harshan. Looks like perhaps Jason Keller and Paul Gallen have finished up. I don't have a result for that.
They might be just off the screen here to the right. Oh, as if by magic. There they are.
Oh, yep,
there's the
Paul.
back of Paul. Yep.
Yeah, for once, Jason is not the orangest person here.
No. Paul is looking. That's his outraged look. He doesn't get that animated usually. Jason's orange appears to have been drained from him by Peter Armstrong.
Must have been a big night at Albert's bar.
I would say by body language that David Eldar is winning out of the two Daves.
How far in does that camera zoom? Can we get a close-up on the score sheets?
All the way. Boom. Oh, nice. Okay.
Let's see if we can get a look at David Eldar's tracking.
He's got... no, he hasn't got Admiral. What's he got? Oh, there we go. Oh, lovely. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the appliance of science. We can see everything, we know everything. So, yeah, 3 minutes left on, 2 minutes now left on Dave Wiegand's clock. Thinking hard. He's played. Oh, he's played a.
Played Zed.
Is that Riz he's played?
Riz for 32.
So that's setting up an A hook, so you must assume he's behind.
Yeah.
And Eldar there with 2 of the A's to hook.
Yep. Dave Wiegand will surely be alarmed.
He will. Does alarmed play? I can't quite see.
Oh, it looks like
if
it's Biz. Is it? It looks like a B.
Oh.
Then alarmed is going down.
Row.
Yeah, bang. Oh, has he actually? It doesn't look like he set up alarmed. Why would he not play alarmed immediately? Oh wow, dream. Surely he... Okay, we'll need to find out why, but surely he can't miss alarmed.
They don't even know they're on stream.
He's looking for the 2 disconnected eyes for airmailed.
Sometimes there's a situation like this where, all right, I know what the play is going to be. I'll take a...
Wow,
Oh,
he's played dream. There's got to be a story behind that. It looks like there's nothing left in the bag. I mean, looking at how many are on the board... Oh no, there's something left.
passing up the bonus to not empty the bag.
Hmm. So maybe it is close. You
Yeah,
just
there's situations where you do that.
Hmm. And I can't see blanks on the board, so maybe he's sitting there with at least 1 blank. So yeah, maybe if there were 7 in the bag, empty the bag, bing's out, you lose.
Yeah, especially if there's something heavy unseen.
Oh, I can see 1 blank now.
Yeah, David Eldar seems a bit agitated. Just by the speed and intensity with which he is writing. So.
I think Wiegand might need to hurry up a little bit. If I'm reading that correctly, he's down to just about a minute.
When these clocks get down to the last 5 seconds, they start beeping, annoyingly beeping.
They do?
Yeah.
With
yeah.
each second?
Yeah, they beep 5 times and then have a longer beep when you hit 0.
Oh.
Just enough to destroy your concentration in those vital few seconds before you go over time. David Elder with just under 6 minutes to go. So plenty of time to breathe and relax a bit, but as much time as you take, it gives Dave Wiegand that time to find a bonus or anticipate what might come next.
For those of us who may be just tuning in right now, this is not our actual coverage. That's why the angle is not so great. The actual games that we'll be covering will have a slightly better display than this. This is just some bonus coverage in between games.
We just heard from Sumble that Peter Armstrong did beat Hershon in the first game. Oh, it looks like David Elder is retracking. This would explain why he's perhaps a bit over conservative if he knew his tracking was incorrect. Yeah, even without really know what's going on, just by looking you can tell this is quite intense. David Elder speeds down towards the 3-minute mark on his clock. He's evaluating several different options with his 5-vowel rag. Urali and Uri, and then Ariel, which was a line from The Little Mermaid. One of the notable things about David Elder's run in Nottingham when he won the World Championship was how he handled these pressure situations so well. I know when I played him in the quarterfinals in 2014, he'll fully admit that the pressure got to him and he cracked and made some mistakes.
So did you say he cracked?
He cracked.
Okay, I just slightly misheard you there. Okay, so a player like Ari would seem to suggest outdistancing. So he must be confident. Yeah, so Bing does Bing out, but I imagine it's not going to be a problem.
Either that or David Elder was already behind and he needed to just score points and hope that Dave Wiegand didn't have the bonus, but...
well, interesting to see who won this, because, well, the pen got thrown down then. But Alarmed, it doesn't look like there were 7 in the bag.
Yeah, I don't know. It's well, Dave played 5, Eldar played 5, and then Wiegand played 1, and maybe that 1 was fishing the last tile. So maybe there were 6 in the bag when he played Dream. And he just needed to not give up an out bonus, but there was the stuff was too good, and there are too many places to play it.
Maybe if we look at where he's played Owry there, I mean, it looks like a very flexible opening at the top, so it could have been a shot at a 120-point outplay.
Mm-hmm.
But then, yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? So the scores must have been about equal, because otherwise why would you sacrifice a 97-point play to risk a 100-point outplay by your opponent? But then if the scores are equal, Dave just scored 70, and Dave just scored 70, and Dave has gone out with a bonus, so...
Yeah, it looks like Sumble's telling us David Eldar won 454 to 434.
Wow, okay.
So that play of Owry did outrun the out bonus. So very well done. And it's hard to say without doing the math, but it certainly is possible that if he'd played to the bonus and given up an out bonus, especially up at the top, if it fit there, then you know that might have been a very good astute passing up of that bonus. So it'll probably be another 5-minute break or so before the next game between David Eldar and Dave Wiegand gets started on the live stream board, where we will have a complete video view of the board and each player's rack. And this has been the live bonus look-in between David Eldar and Dave Wiegand.
The next game will start, as you can see on the screen there, ladies and gentlemen, it's 11:10.
Whether the players are ready or not. They'll be forced. And just replying to one comment in the Twitch feed, no, that is not the board view we're going to have for the playoffs. The first game had ended early, so we used the wonders of technology to zoom in on one of the other games. We promise you will get a better view of the next game.
It will have just as many camera shots of David Eldar, though.
Yes. Unfortunately.
Yep, and we just heard from Sumble that Jason Keller did beat Paul Gallen in their first match, so we had a number of upsets in the first round. You know, Jason Keller is up 1 game. Peter Armstrong is up 1 game. Ahmad is up 1 game on Nigel after the game we just saw on the live stream, and David Eldar has taken down Dave Wiegand to take the first game of this best of 3 quarterfinal.
takes Brett a couple of seconds. It takes most people a couple of hours.
Years or so, yeah. But no, it's,
Nigel can, I think Nigel can win the next turn.
Oh, yeah, of course. But I think he's got the ability in him. A 2-game winning streak is not unprecedented for him.
if he has the right positive mental attitude, I think.
Ahmad or Nigel?
Nigel.
Yeah, Nigel. I'm sure Nigel isn't qualified, so.
I think who was it last night was saying? I think Dave Koenig was saying, or someone was saying that Nigel must have had luck. I mean, nobody finishes 6 games clear of this without some luck.
Yeah.
And I am a big believer that luck comes in massive peaks and massive troughs,
Yeah.
almost immediately,
Yeah.
one after the other. So Nigel's probably experiencing basically what he did to me now. So fuck him.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. If you give someone like me these letters, I still have a chance to win a game against Nigel as well. You give me 7 bingos, I know them, easy ones.
Yeah.
So, woohoo. How many people are watching? Oh, 65 for now.
Yeah.
That's good. And on Facebook, great.
How do you...
Yeah, so if you go to my sports page, or then you can check how many people are watching. Academy, yeah.
Mind Sports Academy or Mind
Yeah.
Sports Education?
Academy. You click on live.
Oh, there we go.
Go up, go up, go up, go up. 19 people watching. I think
Just had a message from a Mrs. Trellis in South Wales congratulating us on the quality of our commentary, despite the fact that we couldn't see the score or the board. This is only the technology it's telling me, Mrs. Trellis. It could have been someone else, but almost certainly a young lady from South Wales. But thank you anyway for your love. We're doing our best. But yeah, as we were saying, I think a number of upsets. Almost none of the games really have gone the way that you would expect, looking at the players. Obviously Eldar and Wiegand, probably the closest match of all 4. But this is part of the joy of Scrabble. It doesn't matter how good you are. She can be a fickle mistress.
Yeah, Dave Wiegand just came out of the big tournament in Goa where he was playing for a place in the final his last round and got steamrolled by Jesse Day. So he's been very close to these high-profile world events. He's been very close to finishing at the top and has repeatedly fallen just short. So hopefully he can pull this next one out against David Eldar and at least go to a third game. In this tournament, Dave Wiegand had a really rough start in the first couple days, and I think, as we mentioned, won something like 7 on the last day to sneak into 7th position. So there we see the second round of these matches has started.
Dave Wiegand had started, he was at 9-12 at one point, and then finished up by winning 12 of his last 14 games. So.
A perfectly executed Swiss gambit.
You rarely see them.
Extra points for sticking the landing. He does look a bit nervous there, which he's generally unflappable. But It means a lot to him to have advanced this far in a World Championship, and he's certainly hoping to continue playing this afternoon and tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. You'll notice David Eldar has a second rack next to his actual rack. He's been bringing that to the table for all of his streamed games. I think it's his security rack. Some of us have orange water bottles. Some of us have stuffed ponies. Some of us have security racks.
Yeah, you always need your totem.
I have a pair of those racks too. They're from the London 2005 World Championships. World Championships that I remember very clearly because Joel Sherman actually complained about the racks because he could smell the fumes coming from them. It was interfering with his ability to smell the fear in his opponents.
Huh.
So yeah, he didn't take one away with him. But everybody who was present, it was amazing actually. David Eldar was 3 years old at that tournament and still acquitted himself well.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, one game and spread out of the money. That was I had just started playing Scrabble at that time, and I remember watching the finals. I got up at 4 in the morning to watch the Adam Logan playing in the finals of the London World Championship. I've been playing for about a year at that point, and that's how you know you've been hooked.
Yeah.
Pretty immediately.
I'm surprised they had live coverage all the way back then.
Yeah, there wasn't a stream. It was just sort of the play-by-play annotated game.
We used to use a quill pen to write the commentary on a scroll, and then we would attach it to a raven that we'd brought in specially from the Tower of London.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And then we'd shoot the raven and eat it in a ritualistic slaughter.
Oh. I'm really sorry I missed that tournament.
Cute English ways.
Huh. So quaint.
And we have this tradition called the bumps as well, which we will give to whoever wins this tournament, where one person grabs both arms, one person grabs both legs, and then we will throw them in the air.
Oh.
I hear Nigel is particularly motivated to experience this.
Mm.
Okay, into game 2 of the quarterfinals between Dave Wiegand and David Eldar. Dave Wiegand is the second, or the lower seed of the two, will be starting this game. This time looking to maximise all of the A's. He's picking. Nice balanced rack to start. I'll be thinking hexad immediately with this. I mean, you could have hard, maybe keeping sex.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
it's a
that would be
possibility.
worth considering. Yeah, Dave is, he's got that on his mind. And that's after a couple of beers. Probably just making sure he's not missing anything. And Eldar has picked up a bingo straight away. So it's going to be fireworks from move 1. I think really hexad has to be the play here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Takes E, takes S, keeps RS, scores the most. Good play.
In our other game, it looks like Nigel's played a bonus early on Ahmad. So it certainly won't be the same one-sided affair that we saw.
Eldar has Patent set up on his rack, and that's probably the best play across the top of hexad. Again, parallel play as well as scoring as much as possible. Will also start taking out floaters. Dave Wiegand eyeing up draw bars probably there. He's an eye as well for Warbirds for the Star Trek fans out there. But can he cling on to a position in this tournament? If I had a mic, I would drop it at that point. Here we go.
Well, he looks like he's really in trouble after that, that reply there. Ah!
Hold on, I'm just checking off the score. We've got 40 for Dave Wiegand and 80 for David Eldar. Come on, Eldar, pick hard. So, well, Wiegand obviously has simple play of draw, wax, ape. Which also I quite enjoy doing at a weekend, drawing the odd wax ape.
Yeah.
Paul Gallen has the first bonus in his game with Jason Keller. He's played Yersinia, but it's one short of the double word, so
Ooh.
that promises to be an exciting game as well.
Okay, brawl. Perfectly acceptable move, RDS. Takes Dave Wiegand to 83, so back in front. Eldar there with Hedra on his rack. It's almost as if he can hear me. For 53 large points.
It seems often after if you've played the first bonus, when you're responding, and then your opponent makes another play, you feel like you're up 1-0, one bonus to nothing, and it should be great. But actually, it's difficult to pull away early, especially when your opponent is also scoring well. So, even the bonus for David Eldar, and he's behind 3. He's about to have a good scoring play. But it's also worth remembering that when your opponent plays the first bonus, you're not that far behind. It can be deflating to immediately have somebody respond with a bonus, but it's early in the game, especially with both blanks unseen. There's a lot that can happen.
I was having a conversation earlier on in this tournament about how do you keep your head in the game when you're behind, and I said, well, actually I think about the amount of worry going through my opponent's mind about the fact I'm catching up. Because when we're on when we are the opponent who's worrying about what they're going to do to us, we don't. We always get neurotic, but we don't often imagine the worry that they're going through if they're ahead.
Yeah, and every once in a while you get one of those games where, you're behind by 100, you were behind 150, you're behind 100 or 80, and you just know what's coming. You just know that you're going to catch up. There's a blank coming out of the bag. You can play this bonus, you're going to draw the blank, and then everything just sort of happens and the whole thing collapses for your opponent.
Yeah. Eldar on 1-3-3 now is the score. So Wiegand, considering what to play, I mean, certainly the highest score is Lady, the thing that he was fingering around his rack earlier on. Keeping SSR.
Apparently, somebody in the Keller game challenged Yersinia's.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm assuming that's. Who could it be? Would they know Yersinii? Do we think they must do? Surely.
If they think maybe it only takes the E.
Yeah.
Especially if it was in a position where it would be a huge play.
Yeah.
And apparently also Nigel and Ahmad have traded bonuses, so
okay.
The scoring is not stopping.
Dave circling back to Lady, it looks like. It's 38 points.
Yeah,
Nice
I mean,
underlap.
he's only 50 behind when you could score 38.
36.
No, it's 38, Dave.
1-9.
Now, David Eldar has not recounted the score for correctness.
Yeah, Dave Wiegand is on 121, but they will think that he's on 119. And he's picked out the blank. Wow.
If those 2 points end up mattering, they'll almost certainly want recount, so
Yeah.
it'll be fixed one way or the other, but hopefully it doesn't cause somebody to botch the end game not knowing the true score.
Oh, considering how close the first one was, who knows? So Eldar here. Obviously a few options. Something like Cindered down to the ED. Evinced maybe. Simply offloading the V for Vaped might be worth considering.
Yeah, just a quick sim and Crackle is saying it really likes just dumping the V for Vaped. It's 22 points, but Cinder is such a strong leave.
Especially with that A floating, and Dave is unlikely to block. Yeah, good play.
A lot of times it just kind of feels intrinsically wrong to just dump one tile on the board, but sometimes that is in fact the correct play.
So Dave now with a plethora of bonus options.
This is the point in the game, especially in a game on stream, where I would spend a bit of time looking for the nines. Hit the double-double through the SH.
Yeah.
And then everybody talks on stream about how brilliant you are.
Yeah.
We have an early score. Harshawn is ahead of Peter, 82 to 65.
Yeah, so it's game over then.
Yeah,
okay.
it's
Harshawn will defend from there. Eldar has drawn an R on the river and has flopped Rancider.
It's an air ball, but he still does get the 50 bonus points for using all of his tiles.
Yeah, and depends what Dave's looking at. I mean, probably his highest score is something like Responsa and Hexads. I don't see anything through or worthwhile through the R. Quick check.
Yeah, David Eldar's at 155 to
Right.
Dave Wiegand's 121, so it's a 34-point difference right now.
I wonder if the front hooks for Lady are going to come into play in this game. It looks like something that's standing out there, probably won't be accidentally blocked. Oh, this would be interesting if Dave's got Aspersor set up. If he plays Aspersor, oh, actually no, it doesn't block Rancider. In fact, it gives him 2 extra points for Rancider.
Yep, and leaves the A open for Dave to take advantage of.
Yeah, absolutely. Only 34 down though. He doesn't need to go cray.
Now, Responsa is in a spot that's a bit tricky to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah, he's got a couple options hooking the S on Hexad, but Response is the one that does not open the triple lane.
It's always worth taking a little bit of time with these kinds of racks just to make sure you are getting the right play, but I think he's... Actually, I don't know what he's coming up with now.
Obviously,
Something with A double S.
S-ROPs.
SH, yeah, yeah. Pass horse.
Dave getting into just the very beginnings of potential time trouble as his clock is ticking down to 15 minutes, still fairly early in the game. Although I think we would agree that this is a turn worth spending some time on.
Is Craig still on the stream? Okay. No, I'm not fast. I just wanted to make sure.
Looks like Davis lined up Sporans, which would also be one of the options hooking the S on Hexad. He's going to go with Sporans. Again, response would have scored exactly the same, but would not have put the S in the triple lane. Although, based on what Eldar has on his rack, it looks like Dave Wiegand will get the first crack at that S.
Yeah. And that's probably the best way that... he's got coordinate. Yeah, he's seen coordinate straight away, obviously. Better than Rancid. Insta-play.
Yeah, that brings Dave Wiegand to 198 and David Eldar to 227.
This is going to be a... This could be a critical... Oh, hello. Is that an E? Ah.
Just missed Evangels.
Yeah. So in this exciting game, Dave Wiegand wouldn't have expected to have the first shot out of this S. David Eldar playing instantly to keep Wiegand under pressure. So Wiegand's highest play here is for something like Vegans. Other options, still a blank unseen. So it depends whether you want to play a little bit more turnover. Verglass or Gravels. Velars keeps NG quite synergically, and we still have 8 eyes unseen. And of course you're keeping the G for the front hook of Lady. And GN combines well with the A and the R of Hedra.
Yeah, when you're evaluating the strength of a leave, there's some rules of thumb, you know, that you can use, and the leave evaluator tool on cross tables is a very good way to figure out what's a stronger keep than something else. But all of this is very dependent on the situation of the game and the situation on the board. In this particular case, an NG might be a stronger keep because Glady is there, because there are some floaters that work well with it, because there are so many eyes in the pool. So it might be a bit stronger to keep those than it otherwise would be. And, you know, making those adjustments in game mentally by looking at the tracking and evaluating the position and figuring out how many points is that worth. Do I want to give up you know, 3 points to keep NG versus some other, versus a play like Vegan? You know, these are all complicated decisions that they're not easy answers to.
Yeah. The Vegan's definitely the highest score.
Did you miss score, lady?
Oh.
36. I got 38.
David Eldar has just noticed that Lady was underscored. It's a really bizarre time to notice that, isn't it?
Yeah. 227.
Yeah.
Yeah, go.
Wow, okay, well that's good. We'll avoid any problems. So Dave Wiegand up to 240, so taking a 13-point lead. Eldar with not the best looking tiles. Wiegand picking up Arsenal, which doesn't play. So Eldar can just offload a load of tiles through the R with Burial. Also has the nice added bonus of frustrating the R and the A of Hedra. Although actually the scores are pretty equal, so you don't need to worry too much about frustrating floaters at this point. Get the lead that you're then going to defend.
Unburial is not a word.
Sadly not. It doesn't take a B on the front either.
Nor an F. Usually if they have to unbury somebody, they just do it and they don't have the whole ceremony surrounding it.
Okay, so David's got his has his bonus set up on his rack. It's amazing how one letter different in these big events can completely change the event. Probably during the main qualifying rounds, if I'd had one tile different in about 7 of them, I'd be sitting here now. Sorry, I wouldn't be sitting here now, I'd be sitting there now. Similarly, David's wishing maybe I had a T instead of this U, and I'm jubilant. But as it is, he's going to play Burial. Yeah,
27.
That's pretty standard,
Yeah.
solid play.
Dave Wiegand with one of these classic, I've got a bonus, oh, but the scoring options with this rack are almost non-existent.
Unfortunately, C is not one of the front hooks for Lady,
No.
despite the fact that I always guess Clady the first time I see Eclod. Yeah, it's one of those frustrating situations where he's got an unplayable bonus, but he also doesn't really have a great leave he can have from that rack. It's not like he can fish and be close to another bonus.
I'd be looking again at potential doubles through the SH or underlap. I mean, he could play something like Nolo, Show and Joe.
If there weren't quite so many eyes still unseen, he might consider Khan underneath Lady, setting up the icon front hook for himself. Probably a little bit too aggressive with so many eyes still to come, even though, as we are fortunate enough to know, David Eldar does not have one of them.
Scores now, Dave Eldar has 254, so just a 14-point lead. But it could be telling he's got another 8 minutes on the clock. We'll see if the amount of time that Dave Wiegand took on Sporrans will become his undoing. It's interesting that Dave Wiegand played Sporrans, and on his rack now he has the words both Colin and Nickel, who I'm sure many of you, there we go, I'm sure many of you are aware is one of the most famous Scottish Scrabble players we have. I'm reliably informed he's releasing a swimwear modelling catalogue for this year's Christmas, so get out now and buy it while it's hot.
I'm sorry, I was just waiting for whatever pun you were
There's
clearly
no,
going to follow that
there's
up
no
with.
pun,
Oh, I see.
seriously. I'm going to, if he hasn't got one planned, I'm going to become his agent and we're going to get it out there.
I see.
What's he playing? Column interesting.
It is actually Quackle's favorite choice.
Nice play.
Yeah, it's probably going to score maybe not score the most, but pretty close, but definitely move a lot of stuff. You can't, like you said, Brett, you can't really play down that rack to a decent leave. It's not like a 4-tile leave is going to be super strong, especially without an E. So, yeah, keeping NR
Oh,
out of that.
he's drawn Angstrom. I mean, we should focus on David Eldor's rack, but Wiegand now has Angstrom from the A. And
Way to ruin the surprise there, Brett.
that ain't going to be blocked.
It's a very small play, but for a large score.
Yeah. David Eldor has a Morg Fund.
He'll be playing it as quickly as a rabbit.
Yeah. So Eldor, what are Eldar's options here? Farm underneath vegan. Wiegand's on 262 now, so has an 8-point lead. So Wiegand on 262, Dave Eldor on 254. It's a great board to be in front on. It's a nervy board to be equal on.
Yeah, whoever hits something large first is going to be at a distinct advantage. Although, to be fair, Angstrom is going to open up an S to play into and an R and a T, so there'll be some space for bonuses after that goes down. David Eldor has Fum lined up, which is probably as good as you're going to get.
Yeah, he's got a choice between several plays in the low to mid 20s. No real standouts. Fum is probably as good as anything.
It's also the highest score available. This is the point where you usually pick the cue. And you'd expect Dave Wiegand to instantly play Angstrom now. He's down on time. There's not going to be another worthwhile play. So David Eldor on 278.
86.
Dave Wiegand playing Angstrom for 86, taking him to 348. So 70-point lead.
A couple of those I's came out, which go with the NG and David Eldor's leave.
He has fishing as a double-double.
That's,
Ooh, and Dave Wiegand has really bummed out with the draw, which wasn't expected really. I mean, the tiles left are pretty awful. I mean, Wiegand is going to have the old favourite of Uoi down the side of Angstrom.
So if Eldor plays fishing for 56,
which he is, that'll take him to 334, so it'll be 14 points adrift.
And Uoi is definitely going to be worth playing over exchanging 6.
14, 28, yeah,
It is a very vowel-heavy bag from David's standpoint on that last turn. There are 17 unseen vowels, 10 consonants, and a blank.
Will he pick the blank?
We've just received word that Nigel beat Ahmad, so that matchup will go to a third game.
And David hasn't drawn the blank. Unoaked. UI doesn't really give anything away. It's going to block the big scores down from the J that Eldar would have. Junked, duked. Is that front hook of Lady I was talking about going to become an issue? Just the blank now will hook it.
Sometimes a hook like that gets set up early in the game and it sits there and it sits there and then it ends up not being used at all. Even though it happens to have been a large part of your thinking for many turns during the game. And then it's just repeatedly not the right time, or you don't quite have the tile.
I wonder if the Q is going to play a part in this as well. Because with all these vowels being burned through, if Wigan plays UI and picks out the Q.
There's a couple open eyes to dump it for 11 points. There's the iron coordinator where, QIN or something would... Oh, there's no ends in the pool.
Yeah, I suppose he's more likely to play down the side of fishing. Because you wouldn't want to play it underneath the L of Lady, because you're opening a big spot underneath, big easy spot underneath for bonuses. And again, blank unseen. I think this game could come down to who gets the blank. Where the Z is still unseen as well, so there's a lot of play in this game. But Wiegand on 5 minutes, so probably needs to play some of these more straightforward moves quickly. So down goes Yoy. Best play, straightforward.
Did it score more down one?
Making IM.
Oh, IM's not a word.
Well, it depends. It depends if it gets challenged. The answer is yes, it does. Dave Wigan on 366 now, taking a 32-point lead.
3-3.
To 3-3, so it's 366 to Dave Wigan, 3-3-4 to David Eldar. David Eldar's constantly recounting.
227. 7, 254, 78.
They're rechecking the scores now.
So 3-3-4. Right?
So it sounds like David Eldar may have underscored fishing.
4, 366.
Wigan in the meantime has failed to draw the blank, has drawn the Y. And actually sitting on all those E's. The pool isn't great.
There's only one E in the bag,
Yeah.
with 3 on Dave Wiegand's rack and 1 on David Eldar's rack.
So the blank may not be much use if it comes out with a lot of dross, which it might well do. It depends what Eldar does now.
It might mainly be about the Q and the Z.
Yeah.
And the blank will certainly help, especially with the Q.
We're on this kind of restricted board now as well. It's very difficult to score anything in the bottom half without making openings for your opponent.
Something like OK, out, and core would score decently without opening much.
There's just such a wide range of what he could draw if he goes into the bag too deeply at this point. He could get the blank and a couple of E's and a T, or he can get the Q and the Z and the W and the Y, but, obviously not knowing what's already sitting on Dave's rack. Tough to decide whether you just want to play off 2 tiles or maybe be a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, all things being equal, it's going to be difficult for David Eldar to come back without creating some sort of, dynamic play, or pulling into a bonus, probably with the blank. So he may need to play more tiles just because he needs something to happen.
Crackle currently suggesting that Eldar is only 1 in 3, even with best play, to win this. Well, I think OULK is an interesting play through the L of Collarby, given what's unseen, leaving a floating O with all those E's and I's. And you're keeping the DEAN to go with one of those I's for a potential play across onto the G. Although having said that, then you've got to consider, do I want to play off more tiles to give myself a better shot at the blank?
See, he set up KONE at the back of his rack there. He might be considering coin KOINE through the IN. That's what he's going
the
for.
highest score,
33 points.
Takes him 1 point in front onto 367. Keeping UAD, so he does pick the Q. He will automatically have quads down the side of fishing.
Yeah, we've just gotten word that Paul Gallen did beat Jason Keller, so that'll be going to a third game.
So David has picked. Has he got the blank? No, he hasn't.
Nor the Q, nor the Z. Ooh, this is potentially shaping up to be a very interesting end game.
Because by playing Koine, he's just taken out one of the I's. Wiegand will, well, from Wiegand's point of view, 2 I's unseen. So will he want to use the I?
It's actually a pretty strong tile pool from Wiegand's point of view. I mean, the Q is in there, but so is a U and a couple of I's. That's the only thing that could really ruin a draw for him.
I mean, in an ideal world, he wants to play Yowie, but that's a ballsy play.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got it there.
There's no S in the pool. All there is the blank.
All there is the blank, and he's chasing the blank.
And if Eldar has the blank, then he's probably going to lose anyway.
Well, I think he's worked that out, hasn't he? That's 31 points for Yowie. Highest score available again, just powering through, puts him into a 29-point lead. If he gets the blank, you must think it's all over. So these 5 tiles, Dave, these 5 tiles, what are they going to be? I, E, Q, O, T. He's left a blank in the bag.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
And Eldar does have a pretty strong nearly bingo rack.
So from Eldar's point of view, there are 3 in the bag. He's got to think that Wiegand doesn't have the... Well, what would he infer with Yowie?
Just that he's drawing 5, that he doesn't have the blank, but drew 5 of the 8 tiles. So he's better than 50-50 to have it at this point.
So you're 29 points behind. Dave Wiegand on 396. 29 points behind. You think your opponent has the blank?
But if David Eldar is in a position where if Dave drew the blank, he's going to lose, then he has to assume the blank's in the bag and play as if it is. When you're figuring out a close game like this, sometimes you have to make an assumption that you have a chance to win. If there's something that there's a draw or a combination of tiles or something that leads to you losing and you're behind, just ignore that. If it happens, you're going to lose anyway, and play optimally for a situation where you have a chance to win.
In one of my stream games against Nigel in this tournament, actually, I at the end, unseen from my point of view, was toe line plus a blank. And apparently it caused some surprise among the commentary that I blocked toe line. But the only way that basically I had to block I had to block the rack he would have that didn't play in 2 places, and as it turned out, the blank was in the bag, so I blocked the actual move that he had in his rack. So I think sometimes you just have to play the best circumstances and hope that it comes off. And part of the skill is analysing when those situations happen.
It's worth noting that Quackle, a quick sim, is saying that his best move far and away is just dropping the A, either for JA or PA and AR above Coordinator.
So Eldar, interestingly, is putting 3 tiles. He seems juggling around 3 tile moves. Do you think he's considering just emptying the bag now?
Could be.
If you need the blank to win, and you have to assume he didn't do it, then if you play 3, you draw it 100% of the time.
If we're believing Quackle, just dropping the A wins a little over 50% of the time, and everything else is significantly lower, less than 30%. We had talked earlier about how it just seems wrong intrinsically to just drop 1 tile on the board sometimes, and he already had one situation where that was in fact correct with the vape to play.
I don't know if David Eldar plays 3. He draws both the Z and the blank are in the bag.
Yeah, the last 3 tiles are blank, TZ.
Yeah, it'll be game over if he does. This weekend will be forced into offloading the cube.
And he can play the Q for a score, but that probably won't be enough.
No.
If nothing else, David Eldar will have a Z play for 44 up at the top through that L in Calabi.
So if he is considering Chewy, where is he thinking of playing it? Day eye. Is he playing it to the left?
Blocking Yowie, blocking the Yowie's hook on the right.
Yeah, maybe. But that's 374. Etui onto the eye of Yowie. It's got to be what he's considering.
That's many different ways this can go.
I think in his head he's thinking about how do I create a fork. So Tui would create both the position underneath Li and down through the T. So if he gets the blank, it's going to be very difficult for Dave to stop him utilising it. So Eldar has probably decided I've lost if he's got the blank, as we were saying earlier on. So he wants to maximise the pain maximise the difficulty of blocking his play when he does draw the blank.
Yeah. Something like Day on the right that blocks. Even after David Eldar draws the Z blank, Dave Wiegand plays QI for 33.
Yeah.
And even with a big Z play, it becomes an uphill battle. It'll be really close.
Yeah. Looking at hold now, which would take out the QI position. Also preserving his own eye to offload the Q. Not that it's necessary. Yeah, Tui. Keep picking out TZ blank.
Yeah.
Teasels.
Puts him at 374.
And that's it. I think that's won the game. Yeah, he has teaseled now, and that's going to go down, and I don't actually think... Can Dave Wiegand block teaseled? I don't think he can. No. There is no way to block teaseled, because... Well, that's it.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I mean, great inference there. I think Eldar had to really had to realise that he was dead without the blank, so he had to play as if the blank was in the bag, and sure enough, it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the general rule of thumb is always don't empty the bag, don't empty the bag. But a situation like this, if it's in the bag, you need to have it.
Yeah.
So playing all three, taking all three out of the bag, you're never going to leave it there if it's there.
No. Dave Wiegand's best play now is just QI, QI, goodbye. Really unlucky not to draw the blank. Absolutely the right play to play Yowie. Give yourself a 5 and 8 shot. Well, he didn't know, but it turns out it was a 5 and 8 shot of drawing the blank. And actually he's drawn the Q instead.
So worst case scenario pick for him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to stress, though, that sometimes people do overestimate the value that luck plays in this game. Luck doesn't play as much value as people do seem to think when they're watching at home, but that you can't get away from it. There is an aspect of luck that will come in. You can play perfectly and lose, and neither player has done too much wrong in this game, I don't think. It's been a very high quality.
Yeah, it's always playing the odds, making the play that gives you the best chance. And it's rare that you make the play that, you know, seals it. You know, sometimes in an end game you can do that, but before the end game, you're just playing odds. You know, something that gives you a 50% chance to win is going to be better than a 30% chance to win. And the top players will make that 50% play.
Yeah.
And over the course of a long tournament, they'll have more wins at the end because of it.
Actually, I was wrong. He can block teaseled just by playing TOE. Unfortunately, that then sets up waltzed for even more underneath.
Yeah, just dropping the E and playing lie.
No, teaseled with the extra E then through the E of lie.
Oh.
Yeah. He's going to play toe, and he's going to set up waltzed. So he's gone through the same thought process. He's seen teaseled, and as soon as he presses that, waltzed is going to go down for well over 100 points.
Yeah, it's...
Boom. Game over.
Does not matter anyway. And with that, David Eldar will have waltzed into the semifinals.
With a 106-point outplay. Yeah, Dave Wiegand goes up now to 3-9. No, more than that. 6, 7, 8, 9. 405. 31 points away, but waltzed is going down. Or is it? You would think it is. Oh, he's looking at Alteza. Surely he's got to see waltzed. It's the fascinating thing about Scrabble. You spend all this time learning all these weird words that you'd never use in a conversation. And sometimes you end up spotting them before you see a word that you knew since you were 5.
Mm-hmm.
Alteza will still win.
Yeah.
Yeah, he certainly doesn't need to find waltzed.
No.
If he absolutely needed to, he certainly would.
Yeah, 72 would put him at 446. Then QI for 24.
Yeah.
So Alteza, David Elder wins by about 30 points.
Yeah. I don't think spread matters in this stage.
No. Whereas if he plays waltzed, the balloons drop from the ceiling, and confetti cannons go off.
And there's probably a big emotional impact of picking out TZE from a bag like that. Yeah, so David does miss at waltzed, but it doesn't matter. Unsurprisingly, the best play for 106, but he plays Alteza for 72, but still a winning move. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we have our first World Championship semi-finalist in the form of David Eldar.
Yeah.
Takes up to 446 on the score.
452, I think, will be his final.
Yeah.
And Dave Wiegand will be at 427.
Yeah. 427 to 452, the final score. Dave Wiegand 427, Dave Eldar 452. Well, fascinating game, very well played by both. Commiserations to Dave Wiegand. The odds didn't really play out in his favour. I think he played the right moves, certainly consistently picking the right options. But credit to David Eldar. Chewy was it's the kind of exploitative move you have to make. It's all or nothing, and on this occasion he got all.
Yeah, that Chewy was a brilliant play.
I think shortly though we're going to see the recognition fall upon David Eldar that he missed waltzed. But he'll be smiling rather than too annoyed with himself.
Rarely do you miss a 106-point bingo and just
When you need
shrug it
yeah.
off.
Super weird. It was like I had like 18 versus 8 at some point. Vowels to consonants. That's when you
Yeah.
played this. It was
Yeah,
pretty.
maybe I should have traded instead of that.
I think just took points, right?
Dave Wiegand there saying that maybe he
Yeah,
should
there
have
were just so
traded
many
instead of
balls to
playing,
draw.
but
Yeah.
I think
Had to
he
play 'em at
played
some
the
point.
right playthroughs. Yowie keeping EE, totally reasonable. Uroi keeping WIE, totally reasonable. Particularly with the Z out, you're taking out that O position on the on Angstrom. I think both players did exactly the right thing.
Yeah, well played game on both sides. Delight to watch such high level Scrabble. And yeah, just commiserations. Rough luck for Dave. Yet again, Dave Wiegand in the realm of almost.
One of these days he'll break through.
It's going to happen.
It looked like this was going to be his year with that big long winning streak he rattled off in the middle of the tournament. It looked like he had the momentum going in.
Yeah.
Spiking the score slip.
That says it all, I think. Totally fair to be frustrated now.
Actually, I didn't even have a chance. All my racks were kind of unworkable.
We have. If.
Do we know if we're even going to have another game to see? Have the other matches already started?
They should have been waiting for us.
Yep.
Okay.
So I can go check and see who we'll have for the third.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah, that looks like they're all
Just
waiting.
milling about.
So I think we'll probably have Paul Gallen versus Jason Keller next.
Yeah, do we want to rotate and give someone new a shot, or do we want to see the
Nigel.
Nigel Ahmad match, which might have quite a bit of public interest to it?
Yeah, I think that's worth finding out. Let me go and check.
Is there anybody here who strongly objects to being streamed? We don't know.
All right, everyone, welcome back. We're here with the deciding match between Nigel Richards and Syed Ahmad Ali. As we just saw, David Eldar has booked his place in the semifinals here with a 2-0 sweep of Dave Wiegand. And Harshan and Peter Armstrong are playing their deciding third match, as are Jason Keller and Paul Gallen right now. So here we are with 3 deciding matches in our quarterfinals happening all at the same time. So this is Chris Leip, and I have Brett Smitheram and Stefan Rao here in the broadcast studio. And Nigel has a fortuitous opening rack, it appears.
Nigel bringing his luck sack of joy to the table. Got news here, but I think Wieners is a better play. I'd say Wieners, I would say, is better play, just because harder to parallel across the top of the R and the S with minute differences, but also it doesn't leave vowels next to anything awkward. I'd also put the I as the first letter instead of the E. Harder to double. And of course I'd play it across, because only weirdos play down.
And Nigel is perhaps the most famous Verdi in our in the competitive Scrabble community. The name that those of us who open horizontally have for people who
Correctly.
Open vertically.
Correctly. So that takes Nigel straight away to 78 points. Oh, goodness me, and he's picking well now. Yeah. Yeah, so Syed with, or Ahmad rather, with an immediately difficult rack. 3 O's, 2 E's, CL.
Yeah, he has Olio lined up, and it'll go parallel there.
But it won't do anything about Nigel's plays. Euro note.
Earlier this morning, we came in and watched Ahmad beat Nigel in the first game on the stream. He had a run of good tiles and, picked up several 4 bonuses, I think, against Nigel.
Unfortunately, it seemed that all he accomplished was waking the dragon.
Yep.
And he chooses the placement of Olio, which is much more favorable for Nigel, unfortunately.
Yep.
Leaving the E in the center available. So he'll hit the triple with Euro note.
Yeah, my natural first inclination is to play the other placement of Olio, which would have obscured both E's. It does lead to a somewhat closed board when your opponent has opened with a bonus, but it's so early and both blanks are unseen that changing your play at this point to make things more open, like playing Olio up top, doesn't.
Could he have obscured both E's?
Has the time been neutralized for some reason?
Yeah, with the O next to the first E in Wiener, O-L-E-O.
Why has the time been neutralized?
I was thinking
It's
down
not.
and to the right.
No, time hasn't been neutralized, sorry. I'm just wondering why Nigel's taking such a long time to play this move.
Yeah, these clocks do not show the seconds before it gets to 20 minutes, which is a little confusing sometimes.
So Ahmad goes to 12 points to Nigel's 78, but as we know, Euro note is going down. So So Euro note for 77 takes Nigel to 155. So, and of course, Ahmad has immediately spotted that he has foot race through the many O's.
So yeah, if Ahmad gets foot race down, then that becomes a self-descriptive play.
Foot race rather than forecast, probably. Forecast does a great job of what I mentioned earlier on in the commentary, frustrating all of those floaters, but when you're still a bingo down, you don't want to be doing that. And it only scores one more point than foot race. Is he? He had foot race lined up. Surely he must play it. Or forecast. He can't be thinking about focal, surely.
Nerves do a strange thing.
Yeah. I should say it's great of both players to agree to be on the stream again. We were due to see Paul Gallen against Jason Keller, but because we know the world demand to see these two players, I'm sure that there are a significant number of people at home cheering on Ahmad. Okay, yeah, he's got forecast now. Obviously the young man has been quite a news story recently, having won the junior championships, playing consistently in this tournament. He's playing forecast. I wonder if that was because maybe he wasn't certain of foot race. I certainly think foot race is slightly better, but forecast is the maximum score for 77, taking Ahmad to 89. So he is still 66 behind.
Yeah, in general, if you're in doubt about a positional situation, play the highest scoring play, and usually you haven't made a very big mistake, if any mistake at all. So you can't fault him too much for forecast versus foot race. There's still places to play a bonus down into the letters of Euro note, ending in E, ending in R. Forecast takes an S, so if he draws an S, that line is open. And now it sets up Nigel to do some cool Nigel stuff through those disconnected tiles later in the game.
We can only hope. Looks like Nigel had set up QOLL to go through that U, which is now obscured, but 41 points for K is a certainly acceptable consolation prize.
Yeah, that puts Nigel on 196.
And Nigel has picked out one of the I's that he might have been hoping for anyway, that he's set up with the KO to offload QI next move. Okay, Ahmad here, lacking any of the floaters that he needs currently. Things like nice statin.
That, in fact, would be the only floater he needed.
Ah.
Unsurprisingly, it's a bit...
You always see Fanny here? No. No, Ratani. There we go. It's a nice play.
Yeah.
Needs to
That's
open.
solid score as well.
The Y isn't a particular danger. Or at least not for 9-timers. So that takes him out to 115. Now interesting, does Nigel still play the QI, making koi, or might there be some... might it be worth considering playing anything oily?
Yeah, the Q spot not likely to get blocked
No.
next time around, so he might feel comfortable just leaving it for another time.
An AT pick would give him Kanat and Owl and QI in that bottom left-hand corner. He's already got one of the A's. Although actually there are only 3 T's left unseen. But yeah, he's just playing off the QI. Makes sense.
Keep scoring, keep the pressure on him.
Yeah, 40 points puts him back into a commanding 121 point lead on 236 to Ahmad's 115. Ahmad here, ideally looking to play off 2 or 3 tiles, keeping something like Rant or TRIN, the A floating freely and the, well, yeah, relatively freely, and the E and Euronote floating relatively freely. I'd like to keep TINR if possible.
Maybe even ban through the top A and Ratney, keeping train. Keeps a lot open and scores 19. And keeps your best leave.
I think something that Nigel does very well in these kinds of situations as well is he still seems to restrict the board somewhat. He doesn't always blow the board wide open unless he absolutely has to, and what that means is that when he does land his bingo, it kills the board. So, you know, you've got a bingo lead, Nigel just scored a 100-point bingo, and all of a sudden you're 40 down on the dead board. How did that happen? So there is something to be said about controlled openings, because a lot of players just think they should open everything up. If you can keep 2 clear openings, then that works pretty well. In by highest score available, by the look of it. Good play, keeping Rant. Taking him up to 142.
Kind of an awkward rack for Nigel. He has already played wieners. Is he going to line up dildo as well?
Yeah, his dildo dealer there, Dildo Al, is probably watching. Hello, Al. Yeah, Dildo and Cade looks actually really sweet.
Yeah, 25 points. Looks pretty strong.
Kills the R of Euronote. Actually really ruins that part of the board generally. Also encourages plays across the top, scoring plays across the top of the D. Across the top of the DI rather. And any scoring play across the top there will totally kill the top left quadrant of the board. The top right quadrant of the board is pretty dead at the moment. This is the kind of Nigel board that we come to expect. Get a lead and start blocking off sectors. But doing it a bit more majestically than some. So now, for example, if he plays jowls and forecasts, the only action is the bottom left-hand corner, really.
Ahmad has a rather easy bingo already lined up. Inertia going into that E of Euronote for 77 points.
Yep.
Yeah, even after that, and then jowls.
Nigel's on 261, incidentally. Sorry.
Nigel will still be up a big bonus, and on a board that has that many fewer scoring opportunities. But
and as Brett had predicted, he will be down 60 points on a closed board.
Yep.
How did that happen?
Yep. Yeah, 77. So then is there a case there, because he's still 42 down after that bonus, would there have been a case for maybe, having said don't blow the board ridiculously open, maybe playing across from the T of forecast?
Force Nigel to react.
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of points to give up, but on the other hand, if you think a couple turns ahead, you play Inertia, and then your opponent does what we expect Nigel to do, something like jowls and forecasts. I guess you still have the A and the T, the floaters through Ratney to pull a bonus through. So you can create openings on that right side of the board next to jowls and still have that A to play through as a second place. So yeah, in hindsight, inertia there is probably fine.
Yeah, it's just played job.
Interesting.
Well, it does the same thing.
Yeah.
Again, killing, scoring.
And it keeps his S to make a forecasts play next turn.
Yeah.
So basically, Ahmad has one shot to hit either column J or row 11 there.
I think also the strength, something like job, again going back to what I said earlier on, is if there are floaters, you want to restrict their flexibility as much as possible. So we're playing job. Look at where the floaters are now. You have to have something beginning with a T. You have to have something more or less beginning with an R, beginning with an N, or just a couple of tiles before that, beginning with an I. So all of a sudden your options start restricting. You have to have a 7 beginning with a vowel to go underneath the T of forecast.
Which would be the highest scoring possible lane,
Yeah.
but also at the same time will give back the triple lane.
Yes. The worst situation for Nigel now is that Ahmad has got a bonus that he's got eruptive, actually, looking through the R of wieners, having said it was restricted.
Yeah, even if eruptive does go down, then Ahmad's at about 200, still 60 points down.
Yeah.
But it'll create a bunch more floaters and places to play.
Mm-hmm.
Current score is 305 for Nigel and 219 for Ahmad.
Okay, so the bonus will bring him not quite up to even, but Nigel will still have a tempo. Still have a turn head start.
Okay, missing the bonus.
It's a difficult find.
Mm-hmm.
If I were missing the bonus, I would almost want to play off the P or the V, hold back the U, and try to hit a big Q bingo.
Exactly.
Okay, so that takes Ahmad's 234. We're still 71 behind, and he has set up Nigel's letters, and he's picked out really bad. Well, if he'd done what you said, he would now have quietive.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my.
As it is, Nigel has, he's got Waldos to go with his dildos. A Waldo is a prosthetic limb for those who are unfamiliar.
Let's see if we can find Waldo.
I think Howls would be my play. The X is still unseen, so it wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility that Ahmad has just set up the X. But in any case, Nigel doesn't want a bonus followed by a big X play to be played against him. Howls really limits the board. That forecasts opening is still, open. He could play Howls and forecasts, I suppose, because obviously Quep does not take a hook. And that really would frustrate everything then. But I think the pure scoring of 55 for Howls, taking a 360, be 126 up.
Yeah, and if you play in that position, then the K column bonus would need to either start with P and overlap 2 tiles, or start 2 under the P and overlap 4 tiles. That's difficult to do.
Looking at Wold, keeping the H for scoring. I think that's perfectly reasonable as well. Takes Nigel to 356, who's 122 ahead. He's got the great scoring tile of the H. Ahmad ruining not having a floating Q, ironically. and really struggling now for good scoring plays as Nigel picks out a really powerful rack. Yeah, Ahmad's playing IV'd. Although from his point of view there is only one other eye out, but I suppose you don't want to keep IEU. IV'd the highest scoring play that was available to him, putting him 104 behind, but Nigel's shag axe could well see him through.
Yeah, the
Although, well, Ahmad has drawn the blank.
blank and the Z. Well, he'll get something out of them.
But there aren't really any good places to play scoring a huge amount now. So 23 tiles in the bag. I mean, Nigel will be aware, obviously, there are still both the blanks out, so you are a couple of bonuses up, but you need to make sure that you keep scoring.
Yeah, he has 2 places to drop the X for 36.
Yeah, and
Or he could play AX up at the corner
yeah.
and balance and score 30 or 29.
So there's only, from Nigel's point of view, there's only one O unseen and both blanks. So dropping the X onto the onto forecast underneath forecast is almost going to completely take out the threat from that T. Not that it's a major threat. I wouldn't worry too much about the opening of that S floating up there on Wolds. I think if your opponent plays down from the S, he's just going to give you a decent parallel counterplay, particularly when you've got the H. But having said that, do you really want to drop 1 or 2 tiles when there's still both the blanks out? Or it should be a formality from here, but as the player with the lead, you want to hopefully pick out one of those blanks as soon as possible.
Yeah, like we saw in the last game when David Aldar made the play that, gave him the best chance. It wasn't a sure win, but it, improved his percentages by that much. Right here in Nigel's position, he wants to make the plays that reduces Ahmad's chances by that much to pull off some improbable comeback.
Nigel playing Hags, which runs along the same theme as we were talking about earlier on with Jowls, etc., of truncating the board. Funnily enough, that gives Ahmad Alteza, which we saw, which wasn't the best move. It's got Lazulite down from the L, I've just noticed. But okay, there's Alteza. Yeah, I think Lazulite had to be the play there. But Alteza, not a huge amount wrong with it, scores 48, takes him only a bingo behind now, so 382 to Nigel and 300 to Ahmad.
Yeah, you could make an argument that, taking 48, retaining the blank because you need not just a bonus, but you need a big play and a bonus. Still, with the other blank unseen, playing this bonus and then trying to draw the second blank is probably the better idea.
He's picked out the other blank as well. Well, Ahmad continuing to draw well.
No, it's not just the one.
Yeah, it's the same one.
Sorry, he hasn't.
Yep. So he didn't play.
Okay.
Unless he put it back in the bag and then picked it out again.
Like that A he left earlier on.
Yeah.
I wonder if we're going to play with an extra A in this one to average it all out.
Yeah. Yeah, in the first game it didn't matter, but in the first game there was an extra tile left in
classic Nigel setup. 15 points, kills some of the floaters, sets up the X. I think it's almost worth. Are you going to quackle that one?
Yeah, one of the many things that separates Nigel from the rest of the players is he has this uncanny sense of when a play like this to set up a tile that he has is the right thing to do. You know, when his opponent is trying to do something else and forcing them to address this issue that Nigel brings up, will kind of, you know, interrupt what their opponent is trying to do. In this case, you know, Ahmad is trying to, you know, scoring well, trying to draw the bonus and all this, and now Nigel's like, okay, but now you have to take a turn and either infer the X and block it and do something that is completely not optimal for your rack, or leave it alone and then you know take the bonus score and move on.
So unsurprisingly, Crackle didn't even come up with Bevor to start off with. I've put it in, and it is vying for top space by 0.01 of a win against Adverb from M1.
Mm-hmm. Of course, at this point, he's a heavy favorite, so most of the difference is going to be just kind of statistical noise.
But 397 to Nigel now to 300. Can't see any bonuses off the top of my head. Ahmad playing the kind of move that he needs to play, but I mean, this is the beauty of Nigel's play. There was never really going to be a block going down, and as we can see, set up on his rack, Fax. Any reason to play Pax over Fax? Just looking around. So from Nigel's point of view, I might play Pax instead of Fax, because I mean, it's a tiny thing, but you're keeping the F for the play across or down from the eye of Dildo, so you're keeping the score ticking over another 30 points or so. I don't see the P doing a lot on this board. Also the triple letter score down the side of Inertiae, although actually there are no E's to come. Oh no, there are. So if you play Pax, you keep FEU for the side of Inertiae.
Yeah, this is a sort of situation where your traditional evaluation of tiles in a leave goes way out, because you're not really looking to play a bonus after he plays Pax. He's just looking to keep the score going. So looking at the tiles that you have and the hotspots that are available, you can just sort of match them. And in this case, there's spots to score with the F and not so many spots to score with the P.
And importantly, so from Nigel's point of view, there are eight tiles in the bag. As long as Nigel doesn't just play off one tile and Ahmad bonuses back to back, Nigel Richards makes it through to the final.
The semi-final.
Yeah.
He's good. He's not quite that
Semantics. Good. Yeah, Nigel playing the Brett Smitheram move there. Quite right too. Proud of you. 57 points. Takes him up to 454. He's 125 up.
Ahmad is currently on 329.
Yeah. Ahmad might take some time over this.
It's a bingo-ish looking rack, but
with no bingos.
Does not look like he's got anything available. And we see the value of the board control that Nigel has been exerting. He's had the blank with clunky racks. It's unsurprisingly had no bingos in them, but now he's got the blank with a pretty good balanced rack, and there's still nothing available to him.
Yeah, I always get the feeling like, okay, sometimes I draw badly and there's no bingos, but if I have good stuff and there's no place to put it, then I feel like I've made the mistake leading up to that by allowing the board to develop in a way that I'm not able to play what I need to play. And this is a really difficult skill, and it takes a really long time to sort of look at a position like this and understand that, okay, there might have been some really high-level strategic mistakes that happened 5 turns ago that then caused, different things to happen, and spots to not be available, several turns later. And this is the sort of thing that there even aren't computer programs to get that deeply into the multi-turn strategy of how the openings on the board develop several turns into the future.
And this is why it rarely makes sense to say, what would Nigel do in this situation? Because the answer 9 times out of 10 is he wouldn't be in that situation, because he thinks about the game holistically. And this is the way you need to think as a top player. Think holistically, think long term, and avoid. Often I have players come up to me with 4 U's on the rack and 2 V's and a T and tell me how unlucky they are and say, well, what would you do here? Well, I'd probably do the same thing as you, but I try to not get there in the first place. And I think that's the difference. It's the longevity of planning. And this is a great game. If we look at the shape of the board and how it has been crafted towards that top left, and to an extent, Forecast has achieved that. And I think if early stage we'd seen a foot race, the dynamic of the board would have been different.
Yeah.
Because of course, foot race, just sort of going back, I should have covered it at the time, by positioning the C where it was, you also couldn't parallel down the side of foot race, so you'd have to leave floaters open. So it was, and it of course create an S hook and everything. And the S hook on foot race would have opened up more plays. The S hook on Forecasts just truncates the board. I think Ahmad's going to be looking for a while for a bonus that isn't there, unfortunately.
Yeah, when you look at a board like this, even ignoring the letters that are on the tiles, but just the shapes that the tiles make, and the pattern is some large boxes, and the space that's enclosed within those boxes is useless space if you're trying to play a bonus. So you see that whole upper right quadrant. There's a whole 4x4 space of open space there that is just not useful. And Quep and Wolds, took out a lot of that space, and then Hags, right, and took a bunch of space, and then Alteza, besides the bonus being available, Alteza made it so that space was going to get blocked in.
Yeah.
So once that play went down, it made it really easy for Nigel to spoil that whole quadrant. Those floaters in Alteza were only going to be open for a turn or 2 at most.
Yep.
And even if Nigel didn't have the X set up, if he'd played parallel underneath the Z there, that would have just ruined that whole section of the board for a possible bonus pretty easily. So before making a play like Alteza that divides the board into 2 halves like that, you have to think really hard about, how is this going to look next turn? How is it going to help my opponent shut things down? How, do I want this to be open or closed for how long? And all of these sort of meta things that take a couple turns to develop, but in a game like this you can really see, all right, here's this play, and then 3 turns later, here's the board 3 turns later, and he has a blank rack that looks good but nothing fits.
The irony is, I reckon none of this goes through Nigel's mind, and he just sits there and goes, oh, word, and just plays it. Just,
if you ask him, that's what he tells you.
Yeah. Why did you play that? I thought it was the best move. Okay.
So one of the things we've learned is that there's the Alteza in the quarterfinals.
Yeah. So Nigel cursing his luck that he's not able to play Fruitage right now. 9 tiles unseen from Nigel's point of view. The scores are 4-5-4 to 3-5-7, so he's 97 up. It's one of those unlosable situations.
2 tiles in the bag.
2 tiles in the bag.
Any chance at all that he could empty the bag and leave the possibility of a huge out bingo?
I don't
Probably
think
not.
8, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Well, the highest bingo possible is 95. And if Nigel just plays FEU, he'll still win.
Mm.
I mean, if he wanted to be ultra sure, or maybe even just go for a bigger win himself, he could just play off a single tile or something like Jag. Still keeping the FEU.
So we have some news from our other games. Looks like Paul Gallen has defeated Jason Keller in the third game. After dropping the first, he came back and won the next two, so Paul will be through to the semifinal. It was a good run for Jason Keller, his first appearance in the knockout stages of the World Championship. So, you know, still his head is held high.
Absolutely. And Paul Gallen going one better than his performance last year, where he was knocked out by a former world champion who will remain nameless. Thank you. Yep. Nigel playing Jag, making 100% sure, but also giving him a good shot at picking out. If he does pick out the blank, he's going to have Turfite to go out with. As it is, he's got Outfire, which I imagine Ahmad will probably leave an S floating if he plays Hafniums or something. So Jag takes Nigel to 465. Oops. Can't be right. Okay. Crackle suggesting not playing the bonus, because it will leave Nigel to go out with the bonus. Yeah.
So yeah, there's knowing what's actually on Nigel's rack. There's it'll be better actually if he doesn't play the bonus to give Nigel the bonus out. There are some cool words though, you know. Yeah, Hafniums and Honiums. And so if nothing else, you get to play something cool on the annotated table.
This is true. I'd just get it over with. You get over 400 in the final game. Hanumans, is that good as well? Monkeys, I think they are. Yep, Hanumans. Mahwangs, oh, that's beautiful. Manhunts.
Svagnum, although it doesn't fit.
Oh well, there, Moss. Sorry, loss.
So, I forget what the seedings are. Who's Paul Gallen going to be facing? Is he going to be facing Nigel or?
Paul Gallen was the number 2 seed, so
I
no.
think Eldar was 2.
Eldar was 2.
Oh, was he 2? Then he probably will be playing Nigel. Yeah.
So I think Paul Jason was 4 or 5.
Yeah, that's correct.
So yeah, so Paul will be presumably be playing Nigel in the semi-final.
Oh, what a fantastic! Oh, is he playing Hanumans? It's a really nice play. Unfortunately, as we know, it is gonna. Yeah, you wanna. Yeah, nice word.
Yeah.
If you're gonna finish a world championship, do it in style. I mean, you know, we commentate on these players, but let's not again overlook the fact that Ahmad is 13 years old. I didn't even know what Scrabble was when I was 13, and this young man has held his own with some of the best in the world, and is playing and spotting words like Hanumans with 2 blanks.
When I was 13 years old, I was very excited to be the best Tetris player in Lansdowne, Pennsylvania, let alone trying to become the best Scrabble player in the world. So,
yep. Halfneams would have scored 1 more point, but that's immaterial. Actually, no, it's not immaterial. It's not immaterial. It's an extra point. It's a bad play. But I think it is good practice that, you know, even if the game is over, you should still play the right move, just out of fun anyway. But yeah, Nigel. So Ahmad, having played Hanumans.
Yeah, I played Ahmad twice in this tournament, and he pasted me both times.
Ahmad goes to 4-1-8, and then Nigel goes out without fires.
Yeah, he's a very strong player, classy young man, and we're excited to have him on the scene, and we will certainly be seeing more of him in the future.
So final scores then are Nigel on 5-4-3, I believe that makes him, and Ahmad on 4-1-6. So the goat does it again. Very well done, Nigel. This is a classic Nigel game. Well done, Ahmad, for getting this far. I think he's the first Pakistani player ever to get to these stages of the World Championships. And
won't be the last.
And one of the youngest now, absolutely. Actually, probably the youngest as well.
Yeah.
And he handles it well as well. I think this is the other thing. I mean, he has maturity that belie his years. Definitely when he gets home, he should have a hero's welcome awaiting him.
And it'll be well deserved. He's had quite the week. Winning the junior championship last weekend, and now making it through to the quarterfinals of the World Championship.
Which is my tip to him. Nigel hasn't got into Spanish yet, so Ahmad should start hitting the Spanish books first. Well, congratulations to both. Nigel through to the semi-finals, we believe to play Paul Gallen, which will be another outstanding pairing. Paul certainly one of the best players I've ever had the pleasure of working with, and we came from the same stable actually. My original mentor, very, very close friends to Paul's mentor. So we both come from the same roots.
It'll be good to get some of Paul's games on the stream.
Yeah.
He doesn't travel as much, so he's
Yeah.
lesser known than some of the big names in this tournament, but
Absolutely.
he's certainly one of the strongest players in the world. So
Yeah.
it'll be good to see him go up against Nigel.
100%. Well, I think we're breaking for lunch now. Possibly.
And we know Eldar has already won his match. Do we
Yeah.
know the result of the fourth matchup?
I don't have a result. At one point, Peter was up 248 to 200. But
Maybe if the camera could pan around to the right, are they still playing, do we think?
Peter, the last hope of the American contingent, as Jason
yeah,
Keller and
okay.
Dave Wiegand bowing out in the
Still
first
going.
round.
yeah, Peter had another impressive comeback similar to Dave Wiegand's. He was down in the lower part of the standings in the first part of the tournament. And
Yeah, I had lunch with him a couple days ago, and he was grumbling a little bit about having some tough draws in his games and feeling a little bit down on his luck, and was actually happy about having a tie on his record because his spread at that point was very poor, but he kept his head in the game and started winning and kept winning and finds himself in the position he is now.
well, we see that Peter is holding the Z. He leans back to stretch. We might be able to catch some of the rest of his rack.
Did Harshawn just glance at the camera?
I saw it turning around to view him.
As if suspecting. Harshawn's got a... I'm not sure if I'm reading too much into it. He looks like he's got kind of a disgusted look on his face, but...
Need to bring a specialist in body language on staff. Harshawn, of course, has been here before. He was the runner-up to David Eldar in Nottingham in 2016. 2017. 17.
17, yeah.
I don't remember who won in 2016.
No. Neither do I. Years of therapy and still it's stuck in there somewhere.
Peter's had some strong finishes in the Worlds before, hasn't he? I'm not sure if he's ever been in a final situation, but I seem to recall him doing well at least once or twice.
Mm-hmm. Yep, he's always a contender. What can we read into Harshawn's thirst?
He's going to need a moist mouth in order to spit in his opponent's face.
Maybe he's subtly wishing to draw a T out of the bag.
He's preparing to speak a large number. I don't have a view of the clock from here, but it must be pretty low. All three of the matches started about the same time because we were waiting to see who would end up being on the stream and who would go to a third match and all of these things. So looks like Harshawn has 7 minutes. And Peter is cannily obscuring his clock from our view. Peter plays some number of tiles and presses his clock.
I think from that, we can infer that he is playing Scrabble right now.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure of that.
I think he has just scored points.
Most likely. It is possible that he put a blank next to a blank and did not score points.
Technically possible. Improbable, but
Yes.
technically possible.
Yes.
He's writing.
Mm-hmm.
That's an underrated aspect of playing Scrabble.
Indeed it is.
There is much writing, as well as the reading you would expect.
Mm-hmm.
And also arithmetic.
Right.
All 3 R's are well represented.
Mm-hmm. So the possibilities would be that he's recording the score, tracking tiles,
Yep.
or perhaps writing down possible plays.
Yes, all of those.
Possibilities really are wide open from what we can see.
All of those things are possible because he had drawn tiles prior to writing.
Yes.
If he was writing before drawing tiles, then we can assume he was merely recording the score and possibly the play and his leave.
Or drawing a picture of a cat, which is also an underrated skill.
Sometimes I doodle. I like to doodle during
Mm-hmm.
Scrabble games. It makes my opponent think I have a blank because I doodle lots. I'm writing all this stuff down. It's really just a sketch of my cats.
I see an S and 2 T's and an O. And an L.
Ooh.
Oh. He's really tipping his hand here. And an
That's
A.
an A. There's an A.
Which is not the first tile on his rack, so we can probably assume the 7th is also an A.
Is there an I? Is there still an I?
If they're in alphabetical order, then he has saltado.
Do you mean saltato?
You say saltado, I say saltado.
Oh, let's call the whole thing off. Yeah, he has got saltato.
And there are empty squares on the board, so in theory, those tiles could be lined up in order.
Harsh on checking the bag to make sure there are no spare weasels in there. It's a danger when playing Scrabble. There could be wild animals lurking in the bag.
Yep.
Sometimes it feels like you reach in the bag and you draw out 3 I's and 2 U's, and it feels like figuratively the bag is biting you in the hand.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can get literally bitten in the hand if you don't regularly check for wildlife.
Even playing at home in a more controlled situation, sometimes your pets will get in the bag, and you'll have to, before drawing tiles, you'll have to make sure you let the cat out of the bag.
Exactly why I make sure my bag never smells like fish. Our conversation has gotten too silly for the British man, so I'm not. He has taken off his headset and walked away in disgust.
There is a story, perhaps apocryphal, of a player who, sat down for the first game in the morning, and, opening rack was terrible, and, put the tiles down, and then, you know, something happened, got distracted, and then came back, and instead of putting the tiles back in the bag after drawing, he put his cup of coffee back in the bag.
Oh. Do you say perhaps apocryphal in the sense that this is something that happened to you?
I think the closest I've gotten was one time, instead of playing tiles on the board, I played my cup of coffee on the board.
Yeah.
And then the tiles started to float out of the squares, and it was
chaos.
It required a director and a roll of paper towels.
I can see clearly that he has altoist on his rack now. He played off one tile and drew an I.
Harshan, making sure that no weasels have entered the bag. He's very thorough.
So we got. Oh no, Saltato didn't play then.
No, he fished off the A and drew an I.
Where will Altoist go?
Ah, he must be a world champion. He found that very quickly.
Always floaters. Oh, something going down. Altoist. No? It's not Altoist, is it?
Yeah, altoist. The T is hooking. Or altoists into an S, maybe.
That looks like
And
an
out.
bingo.
Wow.
So is that. Do you think that's the one American through? That's Harshan. Oh, that's a big huff. Has nobody noticed Altoist doesn't appear to actually touch any other tiles? He just played it in a space. And
He just wanted to lay it down on the board and show him that he had it.
if it's the only
Look at this awesome rack.
Yeah. Let's beg the question, if the only win you have is to play a move diagonally covering all the double word scores and a triple word score for 24 timer, and your opponent forgets to challenge, then theoretically could you play your 7 tiles, each one covering a different triple word score?
Theoretically, yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's
27, 81, 243, 729 timer
Yeah.
or more.
If somebody plays something for, 140,000 points, I'm at least going to hold the play and consider what's going on.
So looks like did Peter sign that? No, he gave it to Harsh. Oh no, Harshan signing it. Harshan signing
Yeah,
it.
so yeah,
Looks like Peter's through.
looks like Peter's through, and we'll be playing David Eldar after lunch.
USA, USA.
So there we have it. We have an Australian currently living in London, an American, a New Zealander currently living in Malaysia, or wherever he chooses to lay his hat, and Northern Irishman
Currently living in Northern Ireland. I
currently
assume.
living in Northern Ireland. Commiserations to Harshan, a good performance this year. Again, making it through to the top 8.
Yeah, I think so. We're going to go for lunch now.